Be. All right, thank you.
Second quarter started already.
Good evening, members of council, staff, ladies and gentlemen. I see that we have quorum, and I call this special regular meeting for the Town of Pelham Committee of the Whole to order. It's been moved by Councillor Durley that the agenda for the November 6, 2017 regular meeting of Committee of the Whole be adopted as amended. There is a letter that was added from L. Suter. So we would add that as an addendum item, and that would be, I presume, under Public Works. So that would be, would that be 453? Okay. So I'm going to call the question, unless there's any other changes to the agenda? There being none, I call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried as amended. Thank you. Next item is disclosure of pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof. Do any members have any conflicts of interest they need to disclose?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Are none. Thank you. Can that be so noted? Now we have a motion that's been moved by Councillor King. The Committee of the Whole received the October 11th, 2017 correspondence from Mary Ellen Walker outlining the community contributions of Mr. Herbert Minor, and that Mr. Herbert Minor be added to the inventory for potential new naming of roads within the Town of Pelham through the Director of Community Planning and Development. Questions or comments to the motion?
Nope.
Very interesting to read about Herbert Minor, and I have to admit that I didn't know all of those aspects of that, and certainly Mary Lamb has a book about Pelham and the Pelham Fire Service, and Mr. Minor figures favorably in that description. So we appreciate that, and I don't know if I think later is the community planning report. I wondered if we might add. There are many minors in town, so if we might add Herbert to the description, so it would be minor, street, or road, etc. But we may want to add the word Herbert because it's about a specific individual. So I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. Next item has been moved by Councillor Ribbiak, which is the Community Planning and Development Monthly Report be received for information. Questions or comments regarding that report? And thank you very much for including the street naming update on that. It's actually, as I went down the list, I saw that a number of the folks for whom we've named roads, significant, and I shouldn't say folks, significant individuals in our community, many of them were actually veterans as well. And so we have that ongoing commitment that we would like developers to use names of veterans, especially in the East Vaughan Hill area and other parts of the town. So thank you for highlighting that as well. Any other questions on that, on the director's report? Councillor Durley.
Just a comment, Mr. Mayor. It's, I think it's important to mention that on Wednesday from 4 until 6:30, municipal staff will be available to answer questions on the municipal drainage. There's an open house that will be held here. It has been a contentious issue in a few spots, and I think if anybody does have comments or questions, to come in and see staff and get things cleared up. So that, I think, important to mention. This will be on Cogeco in time for people to see it.
Okay, thank you very much. Anything else? One quick question, Madam Director. I know you're involved in many items here. The comprehensive zoning bylaw, I don't know that this was kind of updated recently. Is there anything you could add in terms of the timing of that zoning bylaw?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've had a copy of the last draft sitting on my desk, I believe now for about 2 months.
Okay.
And so the next step would be to get that out, circulated to members of council, but also circulated out to agencies for review and comment, and then start doing a round of open houses with the community. So I don't expect we'll probably be scheduling those open houses early in the new year. But between then and now, we would certainly want to get the document circulated out to agencies and circulated out to council, so you can see the latest version. And then What I anticipate is after the public consultation process, we would come back and report back to council on kind of the feedback and input that we've received, and then with the goal of final revisions coming to you sometime in the spring.
Okay, thank you very much. Anything else? Gonna call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion carries. Thank you. It's been moved by Councillor Papp that Committee of the Whole receive the October 2017 Corporate Services Monthly Report for information. Questions or comments from Ms. Tunakaitis? Thank you for joining us. Councillor Ribbiak?
Thank you. Just a question for clarification. There is an item under projects called U.S. Bank for procurement cards. Is that U.S. Bank? Is that something else? I'm not sure I understand that.
Ms. Tunakaitis?
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor, that is the company that we use for our Visa cards. And so we're currently undertaking a project with them to be able to enter the GL allocations of our purchases online and then automatically upload that into our accounting system just to improve efficiencies.
Thank you. So it's not the U.S. Bank, it is U.S. Bank, the name of the company. Okay, got it.
Okay, thank you. Anything else for the Deputy Treasurer? Thank you. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion carries. It's been moved by Councilor Ribbiak that the Committee of the Whole receive the October 2017 Fire and Bylaw Services Monthly Report for information. Questions or comments to the Fire Chief? Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. It's been moved by Councillor Kersey. The Committee of the Whole received the October 2017 Human Resources Monthly Report for information. Thanks very much for the report and for including the performance plan guide. Councillor King.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I wonder if I might find out, because I don't see it in the report and I may just have missed it, if I could find out from the director whether training is tracked for staff that attend sort of non-stat training elsewhere. Whether, do you understand what I'm asking? Because from time to time, staff may take training that isn't absolutely required. So I just wonder whether those workshops, seminars, training that they attend outside of the community, whether they are actually added into training at all.
Okay.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, any legislative training, of course, we track
Yep.
internally. So we do have an online system that staff complete the training, and then we track it. And so we have our spreadsheets in case we ever needed to produce those. For any training that is not legislative training or any training that they may take on their own, staff are encouraged to give us copies of their training certificates or documents, and then the departments generally keep a record on their own, and then in Human Resources we keep a copy in their employment file. We don't have a system, or the system that we have right now is a little bit limited in its ability to track training. So as you'll see in my report, I mentioned a little paragraph on BATM 2.0, and we have made some good communication headway with them. So we're hopeful that their HR modules will be brought up to sort of current trends, which would allow us then to do proper tracking and proper reporting. But right now, for us to get in there, we would literally be creating Excel spreadsheets, which are static documents that don't allow for much manipulation. So anything that's not legislated is hard copy tracked right now in their files.
Okay. The reason that I asked the question is because the Active Transportation Committee, of course, had been submitting documentation for consideration of a designation for the community. And in the feedback, that was one of the questions that was asked. And we sort of lost points because we weren't able to substantiate the amount of training that staff had received that may have helped the community achieve a higher goal. So I do appreciate your response. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Through me, Mr. Mayor, if I can just add, I apologize for that because I wasn't notified and nor was our HR clerk. I mean, we certainly could have went through the process to pull that information had we known, but it wasn't brought to our attention.
May I? It was not brought to our attention until after we received the designation, and it was part of the feedback to us as to how we could improve to attain a higher achievement in the future.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you. Any others for the HR director? Councillor Pap.
Firstly, just a comment, congratulations again. As a former staff with the United Way, you surpassed expectations by an incredible amount, and very, very well deserved. Congratulations. That's amazing what you've done over the last, all of the staff together. That
If I just might say, though, it's just getting easier and easier every year.
Yeah,
We're
it
getting
looks
so
that
many
way.
people that are just doing annual rollovers, and it's just part of the process now. So
Great.
this honestly was the easiest campaign that we've ever had. So it was great.
kudos to all of you and the staff for contributing and giving back. That's very important. Just on your, it's not a big deal, the turnover, the termination section, that also refers to people that have left here for other positions, right?
Yes.
Okay, so at some point, it'd be nice to highlight that, that 2, 3, if you know what I'm going, they left to go to another position for a better position or whatever the case may be.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, if you recall, I did do a few
Yeah.
months back a little bit of a deep dive. I want to be careful in that because our numbers of people leaving are so limited, then it becomes an identifiable individual, in which case I want to
Right.
make sure that for their privacy, we're not giving away too much information that they may not want us to be sharing. So, but
No, I understand that. Just so that it's not, we're not terminating, people are leaving for other reasons, right?
yes,
Thank you.
thank you.
Okay, thanks. And it is a low number, so thank you.
I know,
Anything else?
paying too much money.
Going to call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion carries. Thank you. Councillor King has moved that Committee of the Whole receives the Public Works Report regarding assumption of the orchards, Martha Court, and the Committee of the Whole recommend to Council of the Town assume the municipal services in the orchard subdivision and open the street within the subdivision as a public highway by bylaw in accordance with the subdivision agreement executed between the town and DeHaan Homes, Inc. Questions or comments? Just harken back to Councillor Durley and your comments at a previous meeting recently about the services that we provide in subdivisions, including, the region providing garbage collection, town staff providing all kinds of myriad of services. So it's good to see that the director is bringing some of these forward for assumption. And I know there's another Cherry Ridge. It looks like there's some activity there, a part of Cherry Ridge. So thank you very much for that. Anything else to the matter? Going to call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion carries. Thank you. It's been moved by Councillor Durley that Committee of the Whole receive the October 2017 Public Works Monthly Report for information. Councillor Papp?
Very quickly, through you, Mr. Mayor, to the director, I noticed in here a statement, it always fascinates me when I see general increase in tender bids being observed witnessed across the region with some services increasing. Why? Why, do we have some sense of why? It sounds like an obvious,
Can you
but
assist, Council?
why they're happening?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I just had this conversation with a consultant and a staff member from the region today
Right.
to see whether they've seen it as well, and they confirmed, the consultant saying that they've seen increases up to 50% in the
50%.
50% from some contractors. Generally, it's felt to be the boom. Some feel that contractors are jumping on because they know it's confirmed growth.
But the most feedback I've heard is that the actual prices are being adjusted accordingly, and they haven't been in the last few years. So now they've shifted up to where they should have, in their minds, been several years ago. So we're playing a bit of catch up. So this is part and parcel with what we saw with the hurricane report. I just thought I'd re-mention it there to say this is being confirmed across the region with their Public Works Directors meetings, that this is certainly not something specific to Pelham, but an indication of likely what's to come.
Well, the reason I say it is self-evident, but we should be cognizant of this as it starts to grow across there, because as we start preparing budgets, gotta be a little bit more, I guess, cognizant of what's happening, whether it's labor, material costs, whatever the case may be, contingencies. I think it just behooves us to be able to be ready for this, so we don't get any surprises. And when I hear 50%, not surprising, but it is somewhat alarming, especially in some of the tenders you see. There's such a wide range of pricing, you begin to wonder. Anyhow, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor. Councillor Kersey?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Are we dealing with the Van Harten report as part of the Cow report from Public Works? That's the, with respect to Old Pelham Town Hall and the
Yes,
septic?
yes, we are. Under this one, I believe, right? Yes.
So I have a question through you to the director. I noticed when I look at the site plan map where it shows the proposed new tank, that would be a pump out tank. When I was out there on Sunday, where that tank is very close to a significantly mature tree that may interfere with the roots and all of that. So I was kind of wondering, with respect to the location of that tank, that we couldn't put it near Canberra Road where the present pump tank is, and do away with the force main and have the sewage go directly into the tank, and then leave the old tank to handle the gray water out of the kitchen area.
Technical question, can you assist the councillor?
Sure. Through you, Mr. Chair. These are preliminary designs. This was a contractor that was hired to investigate the failure and to give us proposed options for what we could do. So they laid this out as a preliminary idea, and there were actually several ideas in the drawing that we found a little difficult to budget based on it, but we didn't pay them for design. So yes, things like utilities, conflicts with trees, elevations, all of those things haven't been flushed out, excuse the pun, but they're meant to give us an idea to see conceptually what might work, and some might get stricken out right away based on those conflicts. It was really just to give us an idea for budgeting for next year, or 2019.
Thank you.
Thank you. Others to that? I presume that, Ms. Clemencio, I presume that Old Pelham Town Hall and the system as it is now will be okay until then, let's put it that way. And that's, you're not recommending it being replaced earlier, but can you speak to that?
To you, Mr. Chair, in consultation with the manager of facilities and beautification, we felt, trying to be respectful with the budgetary considerations, this could wait until 2019. Okay. They're monitoring it, and the deep freeze, that deep January, February freeze is the highest risk for the freezing and distribution bed. So as long as we keep an eye on that, we have some contingency plan in place before we can get by.
Okay, thank you very much. Anyone else to the director's report? Madam Director, there, I believe you were copied on an email about the chicane, and some residents in the area were wondering about some painting and some landscaping around the chicane on Hay Street North. Some diamonds, and are you able to comment, or is it something that you can look into?
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair. I did receive the email. I am looking into it. We did have an outside firm confirm that we are in full compliance with regulatory signage requirements, and that's been confirmed. But always welcome other input that community feels it might make it safer. As for landscaping, I saw your comment back, and we don't have any further plans to enhance the landscaping at this time, but I was hoping to bring back just a summary status report to council at a later date about how that chicane is performing.
Okay, thank you very much. And my comment in the email, just for other members of council, was that the feedback from residents was that having plant material in those chicanes actually helped folks see them a little bit better, so.
That's true.
So, okay, thank you, we look forward to that, and thank you. I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Thank you, motion carried. Thanks, Madam Director. So we do have a third item here that was added, thanks to council colleagues. This was sent to me, and I neglected to include it on the agenda, so until a late moment. So the person called and said, is it on the agenda? So thank you, colleagues. So it has been moved by Councilor Durley that communication item 453 be received and that the correspondence submitted by L. Suter regarding trees abutting their property be referred to staff to address. I believe staff were out in this area. I don't know if Ms. Suter had called other council colleagues. She took some pictures which were included there. This is the willows along the pathway in the Steve-Bauer Trail, along Quaker, and councilors will remember that a few years ago, a presentation was made and the council directed staff to remove one of the willow trees because of how it affected this adjoining property. So I'm sure the resident would be quite pleased if the same thing were to happen with these other willows. And I know that staff were out in that area, so. The CAO wants to comment?
Sorry,
Mr.
just to
Teo?
clarify, Mr. Mayor, you said staff to address, or would you like rather to say refer to staff to report back to council? I understand that we do have, we have responded to that, we've issued a response. We'd be happy to bring a report with regards to that response to council, and if council decides to do something different than what staff is recommending, then we could receive the direction to that effect.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Durley, it is your motion.
Sure.
Okay.
Just to be clear, I don't know what address means. Does that mean you, like,
Yeah. Yeah.
Colleagues, Councilor? You want to?
I'll move the amendment.
Okay, we don't need to move the
Okay.
amendment. I think we're flexible enough. So refer to staff for report. Is that what you want?
thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion? I'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion carries. Thank you. We're in committee, so I took it that we relax the rules a little bit for committee. So it's been moved by Councilor Durley. The Committee of the Whole received the October 2017 Recreation, Culture, and Wellness Monthly Report for information. Questions, comments? Councilor Kersey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the director. Madam Director, when I look at the numbers that are first and foremost in your report, and again, I realize that it's only part of a year and whatever, but there seems to be a trend where there are some reducing numbers in programming and camps and things like that. Have you and your staff looked at this and tried to consider what reasons we're seeing that trend, and if it is an ongoing trend? Could you comment on that?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. We are looking at that. We have had a couple of comments, for instance, just recently with regard to our Adult Learn to Skate program, that people just didn't know that it was out there. So then once we upped the advertising, we again, this session we have 11 adults skating. So we found that mainly it was due to the lack of people knowing what was going on. kids are getting older, so then we have to attract new residents and so forth. So we're working with Mark on different ways of attracting people as they come in, picking up their welcome packages, their recycling boxes, and so forth. There was a bit of a difference in some of the numbers. For instance, we would have more families instead of individuals registering, which that makes a bit of a difference in the dollar figures, because there's discounts.
Okay, thank you, Councillor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So at one time, we used to have a community calendar that promoted, sort of laid out the calendar for the whole year and gave folks, you know, we had a spring calendar and a fall calendar and whatever, and it came kind of, it was something that people got it in the mail and they put it on their desk or they could pick it up, and, you know, if anything, it drove them to the website or made them well ahead of time aware of programs that were planned. Is there any consideration to bring that forward again, or are we still going to rely on the social media stuff?
Ms. Van Ravensway and perhaps
Mark,
with the clerk or Mr. McDonald in the wings?
we are working on new initiatives, and we're hoping to bring back the guide, or as well as today, actually, or this week, a newsletter was issued. So you'll see the newsletter.
Saw that.
And these are new initiatives that are coming out, and I think that we'll see a big difference. And all in all, at the end of the year, our numbers won't be down, they will be up. So we are, we're satisfied with the numbers. And the other issue is, we don't have the facilities. You know, right now, we're limited on what we can use and the hall space and so forth. So we're really looking forward to the new community center, and we are starting to plan for programming there.
Great.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is really good to hear, because we are opening a new facility, a significant facility, and there will be a reliance to some degree on cash flow. So I'm glad these initiatives are being looked at, and that we'll be populating that building on our programs to the highest level achievable. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. CAO, you want to comment on that too?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to build on what the director was saying, I've asked the clerk to arrange how might we, with all representatives from every department, to do just what you're suggesting, and that is to review the community guide and to look for a way forward on what the community guide looks like today as opposed to what it looked like maybe 5 or 10 years ago. Things have changed considerably. So we are undertaking that, and we're trying to find the best ways to utilize the value of the community guide in the context of social media, print media, etc. So we'll be going through that exercise and coming up with hopefully some innovative ideas on how to resurrect it, but also do it in a modern way that is going to get the information out to the people that we're trying to communicate with. So that'll be happening very shortly.
Brilliant.
Okay, thank you. Any others? Okay. Going to call the, I do want to just comment on the bus and the statistics for the bus. More than doubling the previous year. That's great statistics. Ms. Van Ravensway, go ahead.
I know we're, it's wonderful, the statistics, more than doubling, but you'll notice in our next report, we're a little low because we have a Niagara College strike going on.
Right.
So, yeah, it's interesting. We've more than doubled last year's.
Yeah, very good. Thank you. Councillor Pat?
And to pick up on that, the mayor and I met today with Councillor Beatty that when it comes to the regional intermunicipal transit and specialized transit, that those items that are taking place in Pelham be emphasized and be distinctly emphasized, because it is true we have put together a very distinctive type of system that interlinks, and the rest of the Niagara region needs to hear about and see how we've done it. So those types of things will be very important. I know that we'll be hammering away at that at the region as they start to look at other options.
And I think Councillor Beatty indicated, if I might, that there was a report that the committee, the steering committee, provided that he is suggesting that we add to next council agenda, just so the council can see the timeline, and I think it ranges from 0 to 18 months ahead for transit. So give an idea of how we can be involved in all that. So I think Councillor Beatty indicated that he suggested that we might receive that at our next meeting.
Yep.
Okay, thank you very much. Going to call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion carries. Thank you. It's been moved by Councillor Kersey that Committee of the Whole recommend that Council receive the 2018 municipal election update report for information. Questions or comments? Councillor Durley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, in the past, before municipal elections are called, there has been a meeting whereby folks who are intending to run can go and see. I believe the last one was at McCain Center in Niagara Falls. Will there be sessions like this where folks could go to see what the new changes are in the Elections Act and prepare themselves for getting ready to run?
Madam Clerk.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, as it highlights in the report, I am working with an elections task force. That's one of the things that we have asked the province to provide, particularly given the changes to the campaign financing rules and the third-party advertising rules. So stay tuned. We will advise, and we'll be setting up a separate web page to keep people apprised of changes to the Act and how they relate to our citizenry.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor?
Yep, good.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Any others? Okay. I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion carries. Thank you for the information. It's been moved by Councillor Papp that Committee of the Whole receive the October 2017 Clerks Department monthly report for information. Questions or comments? Madam Clerk, thank you for including information on spheres of jurisdiction as was requested by Council. It's pretty clear. Thank you. Anyone else to the clerk's report? Going to call that was Councillor Papp. Going to call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion carries. Thank you. It's been moved by Councillor Durley. The Committee of the Whole received the October 2017 CAO's monthly report for information. Anything? There's some numbers here about Maple Acres and the increased numbers. I think some of those were talked about. Councillor Kersey, can you speak to those as our rep or
Sure,
Mr.
sure,
CEO?
Mr. Mayor. I guess this is a true picture of build it and they shall come. As my colleagues know, I was not in favor of moving ahead with Maple Acre, but hush my mouth, brother. Because this is build it and they shall come. It's astounding the numbers that we are hitting, and it's not in a short term. It's now been extended over really the full 12 months. It's really fantastic. New programming going on, innovative use of the facilities and of the literature and the computers, and it's created a venue where young and old alike can go and meet and socialize and be educated. So excellent, good decision, colleagues.
Thank you. I forgot that was the case, and I didn't mean to. I just as because you're the library rep, but
I'm always willing to admit when I'm wrong.
very good, and I appreciate that, and I think that's respecting people's views around the table and respecting as well that democracy functions, and so thank you very much for that. And it was great to see that comparison of time before and time after. That's huge. Anything else to the CAO's report? Mr. CAO, you did mention here about the engineering design. You said you're looking to arrange a date. I don't know if you...
Engineering design, sorry, the engineering design criteria?
Criteria,
Yes, that's correct, Mr. Mayor. The director is looking for a date. The director of Public Works is looking for a date to come and present it to council. I understand that there would be a requirement for some somewhat technical and more than likely lengthy discussion about the content. It's a big document,
Okay.
so we felt it would be good to have a special meeting, but we would also like to do that before the year's end so that we can conclude this project and hopefully council will adopt these standards.
That's great. I didn't anticipate that it would require a special meeting, but now that you describe it and the director's recommendation, I think perhaps that's something we can schedule, so thank you. Okay, anything further to CEO's report? There being none, I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion carries. Thank you. It's been moved by Councillor King that this regular meeting of Committee of the Whole be adjourned until the next regular meeting scheduled for November 20th, 2017, following council. Going to call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion carries. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you all.